Hi everyone and welcome to this video on measurement. Today we are talking about the area of composite shapes. So with the area of composite shapes are just ones that are made up of smaller plane shapes. So things like triangles and squares and rectangles and circles all mushed together to make other shapes. Okay, that's what composite shapes are. In terms of what we're doing today, we're going to find the area of some composite shapes. So here on the screen, we can see some steps involved in finding the area of composite shapes. That is including dividing that composite shape up into its smaller plane shapes. And then you add those up together. This makes it a little bit easier because you're making it into much more manageable pieces. Okay, so you're making it much more manageable. So those smaller, much more manageable pieces. And that's what we want. We want those much smaller pieces, okay? In terms of how we actually do all that, if we need to add shapes together, we can add those together. If we need to take bits out, we can take bits out. So we can do a lot of different things with this method. Okay, let's have a look at our first example. We're going to find the area of this particular figure. Now, there's a couple of different ways that we can break this shape up. Okay, so what we can do is we can extend this line up this way, all right, or we could extend this line this way. Either method is perfectly acceptable, okay? Either method is perfectly acceptable. I'm going to leave it this way today. So now I have one rectangle that has a 20 centimeter side, and then its other side in here is that whole length of 15 centimeters minus, well, it's not really the length there. Let me go back and fix that up. Is that 7 centimeter block. All right, so we've got that 20 centimeters across the top and that's 7 centimeters along the side. It's that other bit that we've got to have a bit of a play with, okay, that other bit we're playing with. So here we've still got our 8 centimeters, and it's this bit in here that is going to be 15 minus 7, and 15 minus 7 is, of course, 8. All right, so our new shape there has a side of 8 centimeters. So now we have a rectangle and we have a square, okay? A rectangle and a square, so we can break it up nice and easy that way. So let's do the rectangle. We have A equals BH, or you might be LH, it could be HW, BW. So any type of formula that looks like one side times the other side. I like to use BH because it's the base times the height. So I call it the base times the height. Hopefully that makes sense to you, especially when we get to triangles, because triangles are half BH, so half of the base times the height, and it just gives us that nice little link. All right, so in our rectangle, we've got BH. We have 20 times 7. 20 times 7. So if we need to use our calculator for that, just clocking it in there. All right, we're going to have 20 times 7. We get our 140. Now this is area, so we want our units, which is centimeters squared. Okay, unit is centimeters squared. Okay, so now we have that rectangle sorted. Now we need to do the square part. So obviously, area of a squared is side squared. You could use B for base squared, as long as you've got something that says it is that one side squared. Okay, the side length of that square is 8, so it is 8 squared. Okay, now we should be able to do that fairly easily without using the calculator, but let's do it anyway. We're going to go 8 squared equals, that's going to be that 64. And again, we want centimeters squared. To get the whole shape now, that whole composite shape, we want to add the rectangle to the square. Okay, so we need to add those two shapes together. That will give me 140 plus 64. Now, if you notice, 64 is already on our calculator. We don't need to do anything else except for maybe hit the plus key and then add the 140. That takes that 64 and adds it to the 140 for us. We don't need to add any more buttons in. Gives us 204 centimeters squared. So that's that example done and dusted. Let's have a look at our next example. Okay, here we have a shape that has two different shapes as a part of it, but it's where one shape has taken part of it out. So we've got our shaded area, which is part of the rectangle, where that triangle has been cut out of it, okay, like a piece of a cake, if you will. So we're going to do that by subtracting the triangle from the rectangle, okay? I'm going to take that triangle from the rectangle. So let's find our rectangle first. Area of our rectangle, and that's going to be that BH again. So B times H, or BH. So now we're going to have that 50 millimeters times that 20 millimeters. Right, and we're going to add all that up. So again, 50, and we're going to go times 20. That's going to give us 1,000. And that's going to be millimeters squared this time, because our unit of measurement is millimeters squared. Now we want that triangle. So the area of a triangle being a half BH. So now you can see where that link is, that we want to have a half BH. A triangle is half of a rectangle. So we've got half of the rectangle area, so that's half BH. So this time we're going to have a half times that base of 17 millimeters. Probably don't need to put the millimeters in, sorry about that. 17 times that perpendicular height, that height at right angles. Okay, it needs to be at that right angle, straight up and down, of 14. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, and then all we have to do is pop that into our calculator, just like before. So, fraction key, 1/2. Get out of our fraction. We want to go times 17 times 14. Gives us our answer of 119 millimeters squared. So that is the triangle part. Okay, so instead of adding these together now, we're going to subtract the triangle out. So our area is going to be the rectangle minus, this time, the triangle. So that way we have that subtracted out. We don't want that in anymore. Our method from before is not quite going to work. So we are actually going to have to type some things in. So 1,000 minus 119. So let's find out what that is. So 1,000 minus 119 is 881. Okay. Not quite finished yet. We need to put those area units of measurement in. So that is our millimeters squared. Okay, that is our millimeters squared. All right, and they are all of our examples for today. Hopefully this has provided some assistance in helping you work out some composite areas. Again, just remember you want to break it down into those smaller, more manageable pieces, and there are many different ways that you can do that. So for this one, there's really only that one way. You want to do the rectangle and take away the triangle. For the other, we had a rectangle and a square. It could have been two rectangles. However it turned out, just make it small, more manageable pieces. Hope this has given you some assistance, and see you in the next video.